Genesis 49, look at verse 13. It says, Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Let's go to our word of prayer this evening. Lord, give us direction as we study your word. Give us wisdom to understand some things and to learn some things tonight. And just bless our time together as we study your word. In Jesus' name, amen. Jacob is on his deathbed. He's dying, and he's giving his last prophecies to his sons. I wouldn't say they're blessings, because some of them aren't blessed. Some of them are, but some of them are not. So it's just his last words to his sons. Zebulun here is, he looks to get a bit of a blessing. Shall dwell as the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships. Very little is mentioned of the tribe of Zebulun in Israel's history. But those references where we do see them, they seem to be honorable people. You can find a mention in Judges 5:18 and also in 1 Chronicles 12:33 and 40. When Moses adds his views, he refers to them in connection with the sea going out and with Zion, the mountain, in Deuteronomy 33. They would make up the bulk of the land known as Galilee. 11 of the 12 apostles were from this region. The only one that was not is Judas. Judas is not from the Galilee region. This area is where Jesus grew up and where a majority of his earthly ministry was. Zebulun is mentioned by Moses in Deuteronomy 33. He mentions them when he's blessing the tribes before his death. And then also in Revelation 7, they are one of the sealed tribes that makes it through the Great Tribulation into the millennium. They're one of the 12,000 from then. The next son is Issachar. Verse 14 says, Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Issachar is another one. Very little is said of them in the scripture, and they are the least referenced tribe. Zechariah 9:9 makes another mention here. Jesus was prophesied of riding on an ass in Zechariah. Zechariah is a very prophetic book. The more I look at it, the more I read it, I see references to it. I'm starting to see there's more and more references to Christ in Zechariah than I've noticed in years before. Zechariah 9:9 says, Rejoice greatly, O daughters of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. Of course, we know that before Jesus' crucifixion, he rides an ass into Jerusalem. It's his triumphal entry, and they're throwing the palm leaves down and clothes and coats and whatever for him to walk through, and they're shouting Hosanna. And then several days later, that very similar crowd is shouting, Crucify him, crucify him. Issachar is also mentioned by Moses in Deuteronomy 33, and they're also mentioned in Revelation 7 as another one of the tribes that makes it through the millennium. Then we get to Dan, and I keep making mention of them being mentioned in Deuteronomy and Revelation because Dan here is going to be one that is not mentioned. He's skipped in one of those two passages, and we're gonna kind of discuss why I think he's missed there. Verse 16 of Genesis 49 says, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. To me, that doesn't sound like real good things said of Dan. Serpents and adders, that's not... People don't think very kindly of snakes. When I think of that, I hear that, I think of, okay, well, what about the old serpent, the first serpent that tricked Eve and plunged mankind into sin and lied to her and deceived her. Dan is the last tribe to get land divided to them. And unlike everybody else, it was, okay, this is your portion. This is your portion. Dan's portion is just, well, here's what's left. This is what you get. And if you go into Judges, you find that they start in one area, and then later we'll find them that the whole tribe actually gets up and moves, like they don't like where they're at, and so they end up moving northward. And we're going to see that transition here in a minute. Because there's a whole story of some things that take place while they're moving. Samson is from the tribe of Dan. We see that in Judges 13:2. That tribe is mentioned there. So he was a judge of Israel. And so you get one of the, he's a judge that came from Dan and judged Israel and did his best. Samson's problem is he thought that his strength is what made him great. And he forgot where he got his strength from. In his mind, it was, because of my beautiful long hair, and I'm just amazing. And he forgot that, no, your strength is in God. And you need to rely on the Lord for wisdom in your strength. And he took it for granted and ends up telling a woman where he gets his strength from and loses it. And during that time, he's humbled greatly and humiliated. But I believe during that time of humiliation, he remembers God's my strength. He's the one that is actually strengthening me, and he turns back to God. I mean, he's got lots of time to contemplate. He's just sitting there grinding like an ox or an ass, just going around in a circle, grinding people's wheat for him, and his hair starts to grow, and he realizes, hey, God's the one who gave me the strength. And so he gets one last revenge against the Philistines, and is able to do one last thing for God and kind of judging the Philistines. Dan is missing from Revelation 7. If you go to Revelation 7, his name is not mentioned there at all. And this is my speculation as to why I think he disappears from Revelation 7. Let's jump to Judges 18. There's a few things that Dan does. Judges 18 and verse 30. So, Judges 17 and 18, it's about this man named Micah. He steals from his mom. She freaks out. Tells people tells her son, someone stole from me. Micah then comes to her and says, here, Mom, it was me that actually stole from you. Here's your stuff back. Here's your silver. And she praises him and ends up making a god for him. And then an Israelite comes up, and Micah's like, hey, why don't you be my priest? I have this God, and I'll set up a temple for you. I'll pay you. You'll be taken care of. Why don't you just be a priest for me? And the Levite says, okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'll be your priest. And so most likely he served not just Micah, but that community. Because if you keep reading, you'll find out when Dan comes through, the community gets upset when they take him. Well, some men from the tribe of Dan, they're looking for a place to relocate, and they come through this area, and they meet this priest. They're like, hey, this Levite, they're like, what are you doing here? They're like, oh, this guy's paying me, and I'm his priest. I sit here, he worships this God, and I'm his priest. And so Dan, when those men go back, all of Dan comes through, and when they come through, these men that were scouting out the land said, oh, hey, there's this priest here. And so they go to the priest and they say, hey, why serve one man and his family and his community? Come be a Levite for a whole tribe. And while you're at it, grab that ephod, grab that god, that false god. Let's go. We'll take that with us. And look at verse 30 of Judges 18. It says, and the children of Dan set up the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan until the day of the captivity of the land. And they set them up Micah's graven image, which he made, all the time that the house of God was in Shiloh. So from this point until captivity, that's a long span of time. They're worshiping a God, and they have this man, and then his generations, okay, his children after him are the priests for the tribe of Dan. They're one of the most northern tribes. Instead of going to Jerusalem like they were supposed to, they have this God that they worship on a regular basis. And they do it all the way until they're all taken captive. Then go to 1 Kings 12. 1 Kings 12. Jeroboam here has become king of Israel. The kingdom, the whole kingdom has been divided. Judah and Benjamin are the lower tribes that David's family, which is Rehoboam at this time, is continuing to be king and rule and reign. And then the 10 northern tribes have split from Judah. They came to Rehoboam and said, hey, give us a break. Your dad, he made us serve him. We'd like a reprieve. We did a lot of great things for him. We're at peace. Can we just have a break? We want to stop having to pay heavy taxes to build all this stuff. We want to not have to be, many of these men, they would go serve for 3 months. I think it's 3 months, 2 or 3 months, and then get a break, and then go serve again, and then get a break. And they're just like, man, we're tired. Can you give us a break? And Rehoboam goes to the old men and says, hey, what should I do? And they said, give them the break they're asking for, and they'll love you, and they'll adhere themselves to you. They'll serve you forever. Well, then he goes to the young men, and the young men are thinking, man, we've had it great. We want to keep being able to live in the lap of luxury. And they said, no, go be hard on them and tell them, my little pinky will be thicker than my father's loins. Think about that. Here's your pinky. Here's going to be bigger than your than your leg muscle. Like, what? My father chastised you with whips. I'm going to chastise you with scorpions. Well, he does what the young men say, and all of Israel says, sayonara, pal. And Jeroboam leads this revolt, and they split. And Rehoboam thinks, well, I'll show them. I'll get a army together. And well, he doesn't. It was ordained by God to split this thing. And Jeroboam starts to get nervous. He's in the northern 10 tribes, and he knows that, well, when it comes time to Passover and to worship, they should go down to Jerusalem. And what he doesn't want to have happen is they go to Jerusalem and go, oh man, Rehoboam's not that bad of a king after a couple of years. And maybe we should go back and rejoin the kingdom. And so he says, I don't want that to happen. So he does this great idea. Look at verse 26. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David, if this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem. Then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves. Wonder where he got that idea from, of gold. He was down in Egypt for a time. You don't get your religion from Egypt. You don't get how to worship God from Egypt. And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan. So now Dan has 2 gods, false gods that they're worshiping. They've got that Ephraim, that image, and now they've got a golden calf that they're worshiping. Next, look at Amos 8. Amos chapter 8. Hosea, Joel, Amos. Amos 8 and verse 14. It says, they that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, thy God, O Dan, notice that's lowercase g, liveth, and the manner of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise again. Dan's greatest sin is idolatry, and it's evident. I mean, they had that image that they stole. They kept that all the way into they kept it till captivity. They're sitting there worshiping this thing. And they had a Levite that they set up to be the priest for this false image. And then they have a golden calf set up in their town, in their tribe. They are a very idolatrous people. This is what I think happened. When you get to Revelation 7, they're not there. They're gone. And I think God just kind of went, you know what? You don't want me to be your God? That's fine. I don't want you to be my people. And they're cut off. Revelation 7, God's just like, you're not coming into the millennium. He removes them as a tribe because they defiantly do not choose God. All the other tribes, they come and go. I mean, I know there's other tribes that they would worship false gods, but then you'd see them come back to God and worship him again. But Dan just continuously, they never got rid of the false idols and the images. And so God just says, okay, fine, cuts them off. And I think that's why God chose not to put him in Revelation 7, because you don't want to serve me as my God? As your God? Okay. I don't want you as my people. Anybody got any other insight maybe or thoughts or opinions on that? All right. Go back to Genesis 49. God does not, he doesn't want to play second fiddle to any other lowercase g God. And we need to make sure that he is number one in our hearts and lives, just like Israel was supposed to do the same. Verse 19, it talks about Gad. It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad is one that chose to dwell east of Jordan instead of dwelling in the promised land. There's 3 of the tribes. They get to the east of Jordan. They go, man, this is really good. Why even bother going over Jordan? Let's just stay here. From Gad, there's someone or some group rise from this tribe and attempt one noble earth-shaking exploit in trying to bring down the Antichrist. He's talked about in Deuteronomy 33. In Revelation 13, there's a plot against the Antichrist, the man of sin. And it's wondered if it's from the tribe of Gad. Because in Deuteronomy 33, this is what Moses has to say about him. It says, and of Gad he saith, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. And he provided the first part for himself, because there is a portion of the lawgiver. Was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments with Israel. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. The importance of that is in Zechariah. It prophesies of the Antichrist, what will happen to him. Zechariah 11:17 says, woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. So there's a possibility that maybe this thing that happens to the man of sin, maybe it's from the tribe. These men are from the tribe of Gad. Maybe they rise up and try to do something. Maybe that's what this prophecy is about, is he's going to overcome. And he shall overcome at the last. All right, at the last days during the Great Tribulation, he's going to overcome this man of sin. Maybe that's possibly what's going on. This is kind of speculation. I don't have any concrete evidence to say, yeah, this is for sure what's going to happen. But we do know that something's going to happen to the man of sin, something to his arm, something to his eye, and we see that Gad's going to do something like that. So maybe that's who Moses was prophesying about. This tribe is mentioned in Deuteronomy 33 and in Revelation 7. They're one that continues. The next tribe is Asher. Asher, it says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Their inheritance was in the extreme northern part of Palestine, and it included Tyre and Sidon. If we go to Joshua 19, you'll see he makes mention where their region is going to be. It says it's going to be bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Maybe this is in reference to the trees that are grown there. That region, there are trees that are taken from that region to build the house of David and the temple by Solomon. That'd be pretty royal dainties there. The materials are coming out of your land to build a king's palace and to build the house of God. That'd be pretty important work to do. Maybe that's what that's referring to. Elijah was fed in a time of famine by the widow in Zarephath here. Well, his bread shall be fat. God worked a miracle for the widow of Zarephath because she fed Elijah and she continued to have bread. On 10 occasions in the New Testament, it makes reference to the ministry of the Lord. Jesus, he was working in Tyre and Sidon. Asher is another tribe. They're mentioned in Deuteronomy 33 and Revelation 7. Next is Naphtali. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. These sound to be pretty good words given to Naphtali. I would much rather be Naphtali than Reuben. Reuben has a lot more said about him, but it's not good things. But Naphtali, he doesn't have much said, but is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. Man, I'd like to be someone that be known as giveth goodly words. If we went to Judges 4 and 5, we see that they are quick to help their brethren in time of trouble. So much to the point in chapter 5, it makes mention that they were willing to give their lives to help some brethren. There was enemies coming in and bothering some of the other tribes, and so they came and gave relief, and they were willing to sacrifice their lives. That's pretty noble of them. Moses tells us that they were satisfied and filled with the blessings of God in Deuteronomy 33:23. In a time when most tribes were complaining, and Moses heard a lot of complaining. The way Moses says it gives the implication that this tribe, Naphtali, they were grateful for what God had done for them. And we know that, man, Moses had to hear a lot of complaining in the wilderness. And maybe Naphtali was one of the tribes that wasn't. Maybe they were one that just, man, they were thankful when they saw blessings from God. And they were able to recognize it. They're mentioned in Deuteronomy 33 and Revelation 7. In both. Now we get to Joseph. Joseph, the favorite son, says, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of thy progenitors. Unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. First thing we see in verse 2, it makes mention that he's just going to be overflowing. Well, he is. He has two parts in Israel, not just one. All the other sons, they get one part. And some of them, they don't even get a whole part. They're scattered, like Simeon and Levi. They're scattered throughout Israel. But Joseph he's given that double portion that should have been given to Reuben. It's taken from Reuben because of what he had done. Given to Joseph, he gets a double portion. And so his sons end up becoming two tribes of Israel. You get Ephraim and Manasseh. And I believe it's was it Manasseh? It has portions on either side of the Jordan River.
Manasseh.
Yeah. he gets portions on either side. I mean, so and almost in a sense, he's got three portions in Israel, because Ephraim is on one side, has a whole part, and Manasseh goes, well, we're going to dwell here and we're going to dwell over here. And so he's located in three areas, but he's got two tribes. He's just overflowing. I mean, he's just good prophecy there that he'd be overflowing in the land, and he is overflowing in the land. Verses 23 through 24, no doubt, references his past and present condition. Talks about how he was grieved, how arrows were shot at him, how he was hated. The archers came, Jacob, without saying it, is rebuking his other sons. But Joseph went through some tough times. Had his brothers turn their back on him. Was a slave. Rose up through the ranks as a slave, and then has his master's wife turn against him and get him thrown into prison. Then he's in prison for many, many years. Gets forgotten by a man that he does a good deed for. I mean, he's just gets knocked down a lot. But in the end, what amazes me in Joseph, he had a dream to hang on to, but he kept trusting God. His faith in God was constant, and he knew God's gonna provide. God will provide. God will provide. God will provide. And then when God did provide, he provided I think he provided above what Joseph dreamed of. What he just knew, like, God's going to take care of me. I don't know exactly how. And then he ends up becoming really the number 2 ruler in the world. Egypt at this time, it's a powerhouse of a nation. And he's number 2 in the world because he's number 2 in Egypt. And so and honestly, I think he was, although Pharaoh was the king of the land, nobody did anything without Joseph knowing about it. And Pharaoh even makes it clear. He's just like, I don't know what to do. Here, go ask Joseph what to do. I mean, he lets Joseph just run everything. And God made him strong and provided for him. And he was a shepherd and the stone of Israel. These are very prophetic references to Christ preserving him. He's look there at the end of verse 4. It says, by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob, from thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. You've got a shepherd and a stone made mention. There's 2 references in the Old Testament. Psalm 81, verse 1, talks about Christ being a shepherd. Psalm 81, verse 1. It says, sing aloud unto God our strength, make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob. Did I say 80? That's not right. 80, sorry. I wrote it wrong in my notes. It's chapter 80, verse 1. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, that thou leadest Joseph like a flock. Thou that dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth. I find it interesting that it's made mention that God was a shepherd that led Joseph, which is what he did. He led him through hard times. I mean, man, you take Psalm 23 and apply it with this verse concerning Joseph. Yeah, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. My goodness, that valley of shadow of death was quite long for Joseph. Many, many years. But he just continued to trust God and got through it. Then Isaiah 28:16. Says, therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Well, if we go to the New Testament, we know that chief cornerstone is Jesus Christ. And he just kept leading Joseph along. Verses 25 through 26, Joseph is given the blessings of the firstborn, that birthright. And, of course, he specifically is mentioned by Moses in Deuteronomy 33. It's interesting, it says Joseph is mentioned. But then in Revelation 7, so how Dan disappears, and you go, okay, well, Dan's gone, someone's got to take his place. And what ends up happening is Joseph is mentioned in Revelation 7, and then Manasseh is also mentioned as a tribe in Revelation 7. And so Ephraim is underneath Joseph, and then Manasseh, he gets his own place in Revelation 7. Lastly is Benjamin. It says, Benjamin shall ravine as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. This is an interesting thing said of Benjamin. We don't see a whole lot of Benjamin other than we see his birth. We see the interaction with him and Joseph when he goes down to Egypt. We know how much Dad really kind of sheltered Benjamin. What is this referencing? Here's three possibilities of what this could be referencing. It could reference Judges 20 through 21. There's a situation where there was a man coming through, and he stops in a city that was part of the tribe of Benjamin, and they end up doing some unspeakable things to his concubine and the man that he was staying with, that man's daughter. And so this man takes his concubine home. She dies. He ends up cutting her in pieces, sending her throughout all the tribes, and then they're just aghast, like, what is this? And he says, hey, come meet me. We need to take care of business down in Benjamin. Well, they go to the tribe of Benjamin, and they said, hey, turn over those wicked men to us that we may slay them. Well, Benjamin says, no, we're not going to do that. And so they end up going to battle against the tribe of Benjamin. Well, the tribe of Benjamin ends up winning two of those battles. They go and they ask God, should we go to him? Yeah. So they go up against him, and Benjamin wins. Then they go up against him again, and Benjamin wins again. And the other 11 tribes are kind of like, should we do this again? What do we do? And God says, yeah, go again, you'll win. Well, they defeat him, and they kill all but 600. I believe it's 600 men. And so maybe that's what this is talking about. Benjamin certainly ravaged against them. You know, there was some real bad war there for a short time, but then they're whittled down to 600 people and barely able to make it. They were able to find wives for these 600 men. At one point, the Jabesh Gilead, they end up going and they say, oh, hey, there's some girls that come out at this time. Just go get one. I think of 7 brides for 7 brothers when I, read that portion, because they just, hey, there's some young girls, they're pretty. And so they just, well, there you go. 200 of the guys are sitting there just, well, there's a girl, grab one and go. And the rest of the tribes of Israel talk to those fathers, and they say, hey, they need wives. Relax, let them have it. Could be talking about that. It could reference King Saul. King Saul is from the tribe of Benjamin. King Saul, he was a warrior king. He went out and he fought a lot of great battles. He had a lot of great victories. But also he kind of turned against the people. Samuel told the people, look, this is what's going to happen. And Saul did. He would take their sons and daughters and make them work for him. He just took whatever was his because he's king. And so, you think about it. He what was he doing? He gathered an army together of, hey, let's go chase David all around the countryside. Why? Because he was jealous. Has these young men, they could have been home working their fields, but instead they're running around the countryside with him, trying to find David and slay him. He was a bit of a wolf. The other third prophecy could be in reference to an apostle. Apostle Paul is from the tribe of Benjamin. He was a wolf there before he got saved, right? He devoured the church. He was throwing people in prison. He was killing people. And then he got saved and ended up turning his life over to God. And it just completely changed. Look at it. Says, Benjamin shall ravine as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey. But at night he shall divide the spoil. Well, what kind of great, you think about what the Apostle Paul did after he got saved. He spoiled greatly for who? For God. He stopped devouring and instead was winning great numbers of souls to Christ and converting people and seeing great victory and bringing people back to God. Verses 28 through 33, let's finish this chapter up, says, all these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it that their father spake unto them and blessed them. Everyone according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielding up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. Last thing about Benjamin, I didn't mention this. Benjamin is mentioned by Moses in Deuteronomy 33, and then, of course, he's mentioned as one of the tribes in Revelation 7. Jacob ends up dying. He charges his family. In the previous chapter we saw him, he told Joseph, hey, bury me with my dad. Bury me in that cave. Don't bury me here in Egypt. And now he gives this charge to all of his sons. We know all his sons are in front of him. Maybe the rest of his family is there as well. But he instructs them and he says, look, please go back home. Please bury me there. Do not bury me here in Egypt. I found it interesting. I got thinking about this. And I wonder if there was... I was trying to think of another couple like this that may have been buried together, and I couldn't think of another one. But Abraham is buried with Sarah. And I think often we look at that and we're like, well, yeah, of course, because that was, the promised wife that would come from her. But Abraham had many other wives. He had Sarah. He had, I can't think of her name right now, from Egypt, the servant girl from Egypt. He had her. But after Sarah's death, we're told he had a couple other wives, one or two other wives, and has children with them. And I find it interesting, he's buried with Sarah. Why is Jacob not buried with Rachel? Rachel was the love of his life, right? Why is he not buried with Rachel? Why is he instead buried with Leah? Throw it out to you first. Anybody got any thoughts?
Because Leah was buried where Abraham was buried, Abraham and Sarah.
Why not bury Rachel there?
She died on the road. I don't know.
But he died in Egypt. He's asking to travel all the way back to the land of promise to bury him. He could have taken Rachel and gone and traveled a bit and buried her in that cave. Why not?
Does it have something to do with, so Sarah was God's chosen for Abraham, and Leah was God's chosen for Jacob. And she is the line of Christ, and she...
You're close. I think it's more the first wife gets the honor of being buried with a husband.
Yeah, and that's still that way in Eastern cult, like the Bedouins.
I think that's what I think it is, because we always just assume, well, yeah, of course Abraham would be buried with Sarah, and it's like, I think it's more than that. I think it's because she is the first wife, she gets the honor of being buried with her husband. Because Leah is the first wife, Jacob honors her and says, because Jacob, look, he possibly had to travel to bury her here in this cave. And I think because she's the first wife, he's like, no, you are going to get the honor of being buried with me. And so he tells them, hey, and because he specifically says, bury me with Leah. And I think he honored Leah in this sense, although Rachel is the love of his life. And honestly, it is the easiest, where she was buried, that was definitely the easiest thing to do. They were traveling, they were moving. She gives birth, she dies. Who knows, man. In Egypt, I will say this. In Egypt, man, they know how to preserve a body, right? We still have mummies today, over 2,000, some of them 3,000, 4,000 years old. Like, they know how to prepare a body and preserve it. He may not have had that when Rachel died. And so it's like, man, we gotta bury her. Like, starting to stink. We gotta get her in the ground. Whereas Jacob, man, they could preserve him, get him to where he needs to go. I think that's what I think happened is with Leah, she's the first wife, so she gets the honor of being buried with her husband. Last thing we're going to comment on this is he's gathered unto his people when he dies. Look there, verse 33. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost and was gathered unto his people. What does that mean, gathered unto his people? Does that mean is that reference to him being buried with his family in the grave?
His sons and grandsons, family were.
Gathered unto his people?
This was after he passed, so it has to be with people that had already gone on to be Abraham.
Yep. I think this is reference to him going to Abraham's bosom / paradise, because that's his people. All of the believers, all the godly believers before him that had died, he's, because his body, he left his body. The real him is his soul and spirit. Well, they went down to Abraham's bosom, and he was gathered to his people.
Why didn't they call him Isaiah buried? Why was he called Jacob?
Why is he called Jacob?
Because I thought that's...
I know. That's a rule I'm noticing as we've been studying this. I've noticed that. It's not a hard set rule.
Yeah, it's just...
Often when you see him, when you often see him mentioned as Israel, it's, hey, he's back in favor with God, he's doing right. When God mentions him as Jacob, he's not living, Israel, he's living by faith. Jacob, he's not living by faith. And my goodness, of all the times, he's finally living by faith these last 13 years. And especially these last 2 chapters, he's living by faith. We see it. Like, man, finally, he's living to the full potential God wanted him to be living at. Took him all his life to get there. That's why we need, the Christian life is not a, hey, I've arrived. No, it's all the way to the end of your life. Keep trying to improve. Just improve that 1%. Keep living by faith and trying to increase your faith. And I don't know why God calls him Jacob here. That name is, those 2 names are back and forth. Because it's just, you think, wow, man, of all the times you would think it'd be now, he'd be Israel. And even throughout the Old Testament, normally you'll see Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, but sometimes you'll see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob with that reference. So I don't know. I don't know why Jacob here. It's not wrong, but it's that rule isn't a hard set rule. It's most of the time, but it's that's interesting that that's what he's mentioned here. So, any other questions, comments on this chapter? All right, let's go to prayer. Get your prayer lists out. Got news from